Welcome to Stories by Greg Kearns. Today I'll be reading Auntie versus Auntie. In this story, we're going to hear about Margarita, a young professional caught between her two feuding aunts who are battling to become the next matriarch of the family. Margarita realizes that maintaining family traditions isn't as easy as it once was and feels torn between her modern life in New York and her southern roots in Atlanta. Will she be able to bring peace and save the holidays, or will her family's deep-seated rivalries tear them apart? We won't know until the end, so sit back and enjoy Auntie versus Auntie. I don't often miss Atlanta in my world of deadlines, coffee runs, and glossy presentations in Manhattan. Nostalgia rarely catches up with me, but when my phone buzzed persistently on that chaotic November morning, I knew something was up. Several missed calls from my dad, Herbert, who everyone still calls by his full name even though he prefers just Herb, had me stepping out of a pitch meeting faster than I care to admit. "Big Mama had a stroke," he said, his voice tight with worry. My heart plummeted, and suddenly the boardroom, the 70-hour work weeks, and even the coveted corner office I was gunning for felt insignificant. "She's recovering," he continued, "but she's already talking about Christmas. She doesn't want us to cancel." The idea of Christmas without Big Mama at the helm was like trying to imagine Atlanta without its heat or traffic. It just wasn't right. I booked a flight that afternoon. The sisters' arrival. When I got home, I found Big Mama propped up in bed, already trying to micromanage holiday preparations. "I can't be sick now, Margarita," she sighed, clutching my hand. "The holidays are the only time we're all together." "We'll make sure Christmas happens, Mama," Herbert assured her. "I called Vanessa and Tilly, and they're on their way." Herb was always the moderate one among Big Mama's kids, but he had zero domestic skills. He was a software whiz who made a fortune and married a blue-eyed blonde techie named Becky. And then they had me. We all knew my mom would try, but she couldn't fill in for Big Mama. Vanessa arrived first, rolling in with a kind of wariness that suggested she'd rather be anywhere but here. Understandable, considering she'd recently finished a stint in rehab. Vanessa had always been the family's free spirit, the one who chased every dream and romanticized every setback. As a kid, I idolized her stories of marching for civil rights and organizing local community events. She had an energy that drew people in, even when life hit her hard. But now, with her eyes slightly hollow and her smile more fragile than I remembered, she seemed worn. "I can move in, but I don't know how much help I'll be," she mumbled, glancing at Herbert with guilty eyes. Despite her reservations, there was something in the way she squared her shoulders as she spoke that told me she wasn't about to let Big Mama down. Vanessa's love for family always pulled her back, no matter how far she'd wandered. Tilly swept in a few hours later, bringing with her the scent of eucalyptus and a box of vegan, gluten-free snacks. Tilly was the older sister, an unwavering force who'd left Atlanta years ago for the Golden Hills of California, seeking something beyond the traditional life she'd known. She embraced every wellness trend, swore by meditation, and hosted book clubs that discussed everything from quantum physics to eco-conscious living. She approached life with a conviction that could be inspiring or exhausting depending on your perspective. "Herbert, don't worry about a thing," Tilly said, setting her jaw with determination. She laid out her plan with the efficiency of a corporate executive. "We're going to keep it simple and clean, no sugar, no gluten, no dairy." Vanessa's eyes widened as if she'd been slapped. "You're not turning Big Mama's house into your West Coast cafe, Tilly, over my dead body." Her southern drawl thickened when she was angry, and today it dripped with challenge. Deep down inside, Vanessa always knew Tilly was the better cook, but she believed she could win if she stuck to Big Mama's traditional menu. Big Mama, listening from her bed, croaked, "You two will work together like when you played house as little girls. Besides," she added slyly, "I'd love to leave the house to one of you, but only if you prove you can handle it." Tilly and Vanessa exchanged glances that could melt steel, and I knew this holiday would be unlike any other. Caught in the crossfire. After visiting with Big Mama, I set up camp in the basement as my remote office. I sat in my late grandpa's old office chair like I did when I was 5 years old, but this time I was doing real work for a multi-million-dollar client. Hours later, when I emerged from the basement, Tilly and Vanessa were at each other's throats, as expected. They were going at it about the decorations, Tilly's minimalistic wreaths and eco-friendly LED lights clashing with Vanessa's nostalgic, mismatched decorations that screamed childhood memories. Before I could switch my brain from work mode to family mode, Vanessa yanked me into the kitchen, out the back door, and through the woods behind Big Mama's house. Margarita, remember how we used to go for walks back here? Remember I used to babysit you when your parents were off building their tech startup? She placed her hands on her hips, eyes gleaming with urgency. I was the one who went to all your recitals, helped you with your homework, let you cry on my shoulder when that boy Byron broke up with you. Vanessa and I returned from our walk, and Tilly instantly swooshed me out of the front door, into her rented Prius, and out onto I-285. As soon as she hit 70 miles an hour, the guilt trip began. Margarita, don't forget who got you into UCLA. And don't forget who helped you with your internships and introduced you to your current boss. Also, she added smugly, my church in LA is where Artificial attends. The Artificial, the big tech guru. Back at the house in the living room, both hovered over me, waiting for my loyalty. I swallowed hard. These women had each shaped different parts of who I was, traditional, heartfelt Vanessa, and sharp, forward-thinking Tilly. Now they were turning Christmas into a battle of wills, and suddenly I had a plan. Thanksgiving dinner, the first challenge. Thanksgiving Day dawned crisp and bright, with the nip in the Atlanta air that carried the scent of pine and the promise of something chaotic. The kitchen, once a serene haven ruled by Big Mama, had become a battlefield. The air was thick with tension as Tilly and Vanessa squared off on opposite sides of the kitchen island, both determined to prove they could outdo the other. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, already bracing for the storm. Because they couldn't work together and agree on the menu, I met with them on the Monday before Thanksgiving. You two should prepare separate menus, I announced. That way the family can decide what they want to eat. The relief on their faces was palpable, but I could already sense the trouble brewing. On Thursday morning, Tilly set up her station with military precision. Organic produce lined up like soldiers, a collection of herbs in glass jars, and her beloved Vitamix perched like a crown jewel. Vanessa, on the other hand, had a more improvisational setup. Ingredients were haphazardly spread around her like an artist's palette, the counters already splattered with flour and gravy drippings. The battle began with oven space. I need it at 425 degrees for my gluten-free cornbread, Tilly called out, pushing her kale salad aside to get to the controls. Well, I need it at 350 for my sweet potato casserole, Vanessa shot back, wrestling a tray of marshmallow-covered yams into the already crowded oven. They glared at each other, each trying to wedge their dish into the same space. Can't you wait 10 minutes? Tilly asked, her voice tight. Can't you wait 10 minutes? Vanessa snapped, crossing her arms defiantly. Then came the battle for the mixer. Vanessa reached for it first, only for Tilly to swoop in with cat-like reflexes. I need it for my avocado Cheeto pudding, she insisted. Vanessa scoffed. You're making pudding on Thanksgiving? What happened to good old-fashioned pies? Tilly looked up from her workstation, eyes sharp. What happened to cholesterol, Nessa? I'm trying to keep us all alive. I glanced over to Herbert, who watched the scene unfold with the bemused air of a man who knew better than to intervene. The mixer was relinquished with grumbling, only for a battle to break out over a cast-iron skillet seconds later. I need that pan, Vanessa shouted, brandishing a wooden spoon like a weapon. Tilly's eyes narrowed. I prepped my vegetables in it first. Use the other one. That's Big Mama's special skillet, Vanessa hissed. You can't use the other one. Amidst the chaos, pots clanged, pans slipped, and a rogue sweet potato rolled across the floor, only to be kicked back into place by my harried little sister Clarissa. The kitchen's noise spilled into the hallway, where Becky leaned against the wall, massaging her temples. Battle of the buffets. Eventually, both meals were prepared and laid out on two separate buffet counters in the dining room. Vanessa's table was a nostalgic spread, candied yams, macaroni and cheese that bubbled golden under a layer of crispy edges, and collard greens that shimmered in their pot. Tilly's table was a colorful display of quinoa stuffing, kale salad with cranberries, and her pride and joy, a plant-based turkey that looked suspiciously like sculpted tofu. The family shuffled into the dining room, eyes darting from one buffet to the other like spectators at a tennis match. Plates were filled with caution, each person trying to maintain a veneer of politeness. Well, everyone except Big Mama's brothers, Uncle Buddy and Uncle Fred. "I ain't eating nothing from no California. You ain't turning me into no fruitcake," Uncle Buddy declared, slapping a slice of Vanessa's ham onto his plate. Uncle Fred nodded in agreement, his eyes narrowing at Tilly's vegan turkey. "Thanksgiving is not Thanksgiving without real turkey meat, not tofurkey or plant-based meat. I'm eating Nessa's food. Sorry, Tilly," Uncle Fred said with finality. The rest of the family, like sheep following a shepherd, gravitated towards Nessa's buffet. Becky, my mom, ever the diplomat, sidled up to Tilly's side and fixed her plate with a cautious smile. She scooped up a spoonful of quinoa stuffing and topped it with a sprinkle of Tilly's cranberry relish, trying her best to appear nonpartisan. The first bite, however, told a different story. Her smile faltered for a split second, her eyes watering just a touch as she chewed and swallowed with forced enthusiasm. Uncle Buddy took a forkful of Vanessa's collard greens and immediately turned up his nose. He looked over at Vanessa, who was beaming with pride. "What did you do to these collard greens?" he asked, his voice half accusatory, half bewildered. Vanessa grinned wide. "I made them just like Big Mama. I put my foot in it. See, I still have some of the fatback grease between my toes," she said, holding up her foot. Uncle Buddy's face contorted in horror, and before anyone could stop him, he spat the greens back onto his plate. "Nessa, that's just an expression. You ain't supposed to literally put your foot in the food." The whole room erupted in laughter, save for Vanessa, whose face fell as she realized her dish had become a culinary casualty. The distaste for her other dishes spread rapidly. Uncle Fred pushed his plate away and declared, "We can't eat this crap. We're going to eat Tilly's food." In an instant, the room turned into a scene from a wildlife documentary. Chairs scraped, elbows nudged, and people scrambled toward Tilly's buffet with the urgency of survival. Tilly's eyes lit up, vindicated and smug. "I have healthy versions of our favorite dishes," she said, smoothing her apron, "like potato salad." Uncle Buddy took a big bite of her potato salad, chewing thoughtfully for a moment before his eyes widened in alarm. "What in the Caucasian?" He pulled something small and wrinkled from his mouth. "You put raisins in the potato salad?" The room fell silent, tension vibrating like a tuning fork until Vanessa let out a loud bark-like laugh. It was contagious, breaking the stillness until everyone was chuckling, even Herbert, who had just come downstairs. He paused mid-step, looking at the crowd clustered around the dining room and the buffet tables in disarray. "Okay, I'm ready to fix a plate for Big Mama." In unison, the entire family shouted, "No!" After that fiasco, I had to come up with a new plan. I asked myself, how would I handle the situation if I were at the agency in New York? Then it hit me. Leadership family style. I called a family meeting. Herbert, his wife Becky, my mom, and my younger cousins watched in disbelief as I laid out a plan. "Auntie Vanessa, you'll handle the menu with Auntie Tilly's help. Auntie Tilly, you'll teach Vanessa some of your cooking skills, but we're sticking to traditional recipes. No chia seeds in the stuffing or chilled avocado soup." Vanessa glared at Tilly. "As long as she doesn't sneak in those plant-based meat substitutes, we might have a deal." Tilly pursed her lips but nodded, her pride softened by the challenge. "Fine, but we're not deep frying anything, Vanessa. We're keeping it healthy." The first attempt was a disaster. Tilly's initial lesson in the kitchen turned into a TED Talk on the virtues of flaxseed oil. Vanessa squinted at a recipe and asked, "Is tempeh a type of turkey?" Herbert Jr. and Clarissa peeked in, giggling until I shooed them out. Tilly's kitchen style was precise and almost surgical. Every measurement was exact, every process timed to perfection. She worked with a calm efficiency, humming under her breath as she layered vegetables for a quinoa casserole. Vanessa, on the other hand, cooked with a chaotic energy, tossing ingredients in with the kind of confidence that bordered on reckless. When she fried chicken, the oil popped so violently that Tilly had to shield herself with a cutting board. "You're going to burn the house down," Tilly snapped at her face flushed with panic. "It's called flavor, sis," Vanessa retorted, grinning as she drizzled honey over the cornbread batter. The sisters' evolution. As the days went by, their kitchen battles turned into unexpected lessons. Tilly, to her surprise, found herself appreciating Vanessa's bold, intuitive approach to seasoning. Vanessa, in turn, couldn't deny that some of Tilly's healthy substitutions didn't taste half bad, especially when she learned to balance them with the southern flavors she knew best. I watched it all unfold, feeling like I was both orchestrating and observing a miracle. The house began to transform into a mix of new and old. Heirloom Christmas ornaments hung alongside Tilly's handmade, eco-friendly ones. Big Mama's vintage nativity scene was polished and placed next to a modern ceramic angel. Strings of fat bulb Christmas lights hang next to strings of tiny LED lights. One evening, as the kitchen finally settled into a rare lull, Tilly turned to Vanessa, a sliver of a smile on her lips. "You know, I never admitted it, but I did miss the smell of butter and cinnamon." Vanessa, surprised but pleased, chuckled, "And I might admit that not everything Californian tastes like cardboard." They laughed, a sound that resonated deep in my chest, bringing with it the realization that this was what Big Mama wanted, not a battle, but a blending. Christmas dinner reinvented. On Christmas Day, the table gleamed with mismatched dishes, some classic and some with a twist. There was a sweet potato pie made with coconut milk that tasted just as rich as Big Mama's original. The turkey was brined and roasted to perfection, with just a hint of rosemary, Tilly's suggestion, Vanessa's execution. It was the kind of collaboration that could only come from a begrudging respect. Big Mama was wheeled in, eyes glistening as she took in the scene. "You both tried and you both succeeded," she said, breaking into a smile. "I can't go anywhere just yet. You two have more to learn." The room filled with laughter and clinking glasses as Vanessa and Tilly shared a look that was part challenge, part peace offering. Vanessa lifted up her wine glass. "To new traditions," she said, the twinkle in her eye hinting that this truce, while fragile, was real. Tilly raised hers, eyes narrowing playfully, "and to keeping some things old." Reflection on the journey home. The plane hummed softly as it lifted off from Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, the twinkling lights of Atlanta receding beneath the wings. I leaned my head back against the seat, the steady roar of the engines vibrating through me, mingling with the thoughts that buzzed in my mind. My carry-on sat snugly beneath the seat in front of me, packed with gifts I hadn't unwrapped and memories I hadn't quite sorted through. This trip home had been different. It wasn't just about returning for the holidays or checking off an obligation. This time it had been about saving something, a tradition, a bond, maybe even myself. Watching Tilly and Vanessa put aside their differences to create something beautiful, albeit chaotic, was a revelation. It reminded me of the parts of myself that had been divided, the ambitious city girl always on the go, and the southern girl who longed for family and comfort. Somehow, my two aunties had shown me that maybe those parts could coexist. A smile played at my lips as I recalled the moment of tentative peace that had settled over the house after Thanksgiving. The awkward first bites of Tilly's food, followed by the burst of laughter and stories shared around the table. Vanessa's triumphant grin when her sweet potato pie, finally perfected with Tilly's help, made Big Mama nod in approval. The sight of Uncle Buddy leaning back in his chair, belly full, eyes closed, humming an old gospel tune. Despite the bickering, the misunderstanding, and the noise, they'd done it. They'd found a way to make the holidays happen. And not just any holidays, ones filled with new traditions layered on top of the old, just as it should be. I stared out the window as the plane sliced through clouds, the city lights below fading into a dark expanse. Big Mama's voice echoed in my mind, words that were both a blessing and a challenge. Margarita, you're the glue, baby. You keep us all together. A lump formed in my throat as I realized how true that was. If I didn't come back, if I didn't make an effort to be more present, I might miss Big Mama's last few years on this earth. The thought was like a cold wind slicing through me, sharp and sobering. As the captain announced our descent into LaGuardia, I reached for my phone and opened my work email, my fingers hovering over the screen for a moment. The agency had been good to me, no doubt, but this trip had shifted something inside me. I needed to make changes, to find a balance that didn't leave me feeling like I was constantly sprinting on a treadmill with no end in sight. I started drafting a search for job opportunities in Atlanta. I wasn't sure how it would all pan out, but one thing was clear. I didn't want to miss any more birthdays, holidays, or last-minute family gatherings where Uncle Buddy's voice carried over the chatter and Big Mama's stories made everyone pause and smile. I wanted to be there for it all. I wanted to be there for all of it, the good, the bad, and the absolutely absurd. Family, I realized, wasn't just something you kept in your pocket for safekeeping. It was something you actively nurtured and held close, even when it tested your patience or made you laugh until your sides hurt. It was the quilt of aunts who made peace over burnt casseroles and uncles who grumbled over California dishes. It was Big Mama, resilient and loving, who'd built that house into a home where we all fit, even in our messiest forms. The plane touched down with a gentle thud, and I felt a lightness that hadn't been there before. The Big Apple was still the Big Apple. Its energy and eclectic current I would always feel drawn to, but Atlanta, with its tangled roots of love and history, was calling me back. And this time, I intended to answer. With a small smile, I whispered to myself, here's to the new year. One where I'd spend more time with loved ones, even the crazy ones, while I still could. Thank you for listening to Stories by Greg Kearns. I hope you enjoyed Auntie versus Auntie, a tale of family tradition and finding common ground amidst chaos. If you're looking for more stories that blend humor and heart, head over to gregkearns.tv for more. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and cherish the moments that make your family unique.